Hi, we are back with today's reading session for the Malgudi days by R.K. Narayan. And today's short story is titled Ishwaran, Iswaran. Now, Ishwaran is a very usual, common name for boys in South India, and that's the title of this story. I start. When the whole of the student world in Malgudi was convulsed with excitement on a certain evening in June, when the intermediate examination results were expected, Ishwaran went about his business looking very unconcerned and detached. He had earned the reputation of having aged in the intermediate class. He entered the intermediate class in Albert Mission College as a youngster with faint down on his upper lip. Now he was still there. His fingers had grown brawny and athletic, and his chin had become tanned and leathery. Some people even said that you could see grey hair on his head. The first time he failed, his parents sympathized with him. The second time also, he managed to get their sympathies. But subsequently, they grew more and more critical and unsparing. And after repeated failures, they lost all interest in his examination. He was often told by his parents, "Why don't you discontinue your studies and try to do something useful?" He always pleaded, "Let me have this one last chance." He clung to the university education with a ferocious devotion, and now the whole town was agog with the expectation of the results in the evening. Boys moved about the street in groups, and on the sands of Sarayu River they sat in clusters, nervously smiling and biting their fingernails. Others hung about the gates of the Senate House, staring anxiously at the walls behind which a meeting was going on. So they were all anxiously waiting for the results. As much as the boys, if not more, the parents were agitated, except Ishwarans, who, when they heard their neighbors discussing their son's possible future results, remarked with a sigh, "No such worry for Ishwaran. His results are famous and known to everyone in advance." Ishwaran said facetiously, "I have perhaps passed this time, father. Who knows? I did study quite well. You are the greatest optimist in India at the moment. But for the obstinate hope, you would never have appeared for the same exam every year," his father said. "I failed only in logic very narrowly last year," he defended himself, at which the whole family laughed. "In any case, why don't you go and wait along with the other boys and look up your results?" his mother asked. "Not at all necessary," Ishwaran replied. "If I pass, they'll bring home the news. Do you think I saw my results last year? I spent my time in a cinema. I sat through 2 shows consecutively." He hummed as he went in for a wash before dressing to go out. He combed his hair with deliberate care, the more so because he knew everybody looked on him as a sort of an outcast for failing so often. He knew that behind him the whole family and the town were laughing. He felt that they remarked among themselves that washing, combing his hair, and putting on a well-ironed coat were luxuries too far above his state. He was a failure and had no right to such luxuries. He was treated as a sort of thick skinned idiot, but he did not care. He answered their attitude by behaving like a desperado. He swung his arms, strode up and down, bragged and shouted, and went to a cinema. But all this was only a mask. Under it was a creature hopelessly seared by failure, desperately longing and praying for success. On the day of the results, he was inwardly in a trembling suspense. Mother, he said as he went out, don't expect me for dinner tonight. I will eat something in a hotel and sit through both the shows at the Palace Talkies. Emerging from Vinayak Street, he saw a group of boys moving up the market road towards the college. Someone asked, Ishwaran, coming up to see the results? Yes, presently. But now I have to be going on an urgent business. Where are you going? They asked. Palace Talkies. At this, all the boys laughed. You seem to know your results already, do you? I do. Otherwise, do you think I would be celebrating it with with a movie? What is your number? 785, he said, giving the first set of numbers that came to his head. The group passed on, joking. We know you are going to get a first class this time, they quipped. He sat in a far-off corner in the forerunner class in the movie theatre. He looked about, not a single student in the whole theatre. All the students of the town were near the Senate House, waiting for their results. Ishwaran felt very unhappy to be the only student in the whole theatre. Somehow, fate seemed to have isolated him from his fellow beings in every respect. He felt very depressed and unhappy. He felt an utter distaste for himself. Poor Ishwaran, he can't do anything else except to. Soon the lights went out and the show started. A Tamil film with all the known gods in it. He soon lost himself in the politics and struggles of gods and goddesses. He rapped at the vision of a heavenly world which some film director had chosen to present. This felicity of forgetfulness lasted but half an hour. Soon the heroine of the story sat on a low branch of a tree in paradise and wouldn't move out of the place. She sat there singing a song for over half an hour. This portion tired Ishwaran, and now there returned all the old pains and gloom. Oh lady, Ishwaran appealed, don't add to my troubles. Please move on. As if she heard this appeal, the lady moved off, and brighter things followed. A battle, a deluge, somebody dropping headlong from the cloudland, and somebody coming up from the bed of an ocean, a rain of fire, and somebody coming up from the somebody dropping headlong from the cloudland, and somebody coming up from the bed of an ocean, a rain of fire, a rain of flowers, people dying, people rising from graves, and so on. All kinds of thrills occurred on that white screen beyond the pall of tobacco smoke. The continuous babble on and off the screen, music and shouting, the cry of peddlers selling soda, the unrestrained comments of the spectators. All this din and commotion helped Ishwaran to forget the Senate House and student life for a few hours. The show ended at 10 o'clock in the night. A crowd was waiting at the gate for the next show. Ishwaran walked across to Ananda Bhavan, a restaurant opposite the Palace Talkies. The proprietor, a genial Bombay man, was a friend of his and cried, Ishwar Sahab, the results are announced today. What about your results? I did not write any examination this year, sir, Ishwaran said. Why? I thought you paid for your examination fees. Ishwaran laughed. You are right. I have passed my intermediate just this evening. Oh, how that is very good. How clever you must be. If you pray to Hanuman, he'll always bring you success. What are you going to do next? Hanuman is our God who will help us to get success. I will go to a higher class, he said. That's all. He ordered a few tidbits and coffee and rose to go. As he paid his bill and walked out, the hotel proprietor said, Don't leave me out when you are giving a dinner to celebrate your success. Ishwaran again purchased a ticket and went back to the picture house. Once more, all these strifes and struggles and intrigues of gods were repeated before him. He was once again lost in it. When he saw on the screen some young men of his age singing as they sported in the waters of some distant heaven, he said, Well, might you do it, boys? I suppose you have no examination where you are. And he was seized with a longing to belong to that world. Now, the leading lady sat on the low branch of a tree and started singing, and Ishwaran lost interest in the picture. He looked about for the first time. He noticed in the semi-darkness several groups of boys in the hall, happy groups. He knew that they must all have seen their results and come now to celebrate their success. There were at least 50. He knew that they must be a happy and gay lot, with their lips red from the chewing betel leaves. He knew that all of them would focus their attention on him the moment the lights went up. They would all rag him about the results, all the old tedious jokes over again, and all the tiresome pose of a desperado. He felt thoroughly sick of the whole business. He would not stand any more of it. The mirthful faces of these men of success and their leers, he was certain they would all look on him with a feeling that he had no business to seek the pleasure of a picture that day. He moved on to a more obscure corner of the hall. He looked at the screen, nothing there to cheer him. The leading lady was still there, and he knew she would certainly stay there for the next 20 minutes, singing her masterpiece. He was overcome with dejection. He rose, silently edged towards the exit, and was out of the theatre in a moment. He felt a loathing for himself after seeing those successful boys. I am not fit to live. A fellow who cannot pass an examination. This idea developed in his mind, a glorious solution to all difficulties. Die and go to a world where there are young men free from examination, who sported in lotus pools in paradise. No bothers, no disgusting Senate House to gaze on hopelessly year after year. This solution suddenly brought him a feeling of relief. He felt lighter. He walked across the hotel. The hotel man was about to rise and go to bed. Setji Ishwaran said, "Please forgive my troubling you now. Give me a piece of paper and pencil. I have to note down something urgently." "So late as this?" said the hotel man, and gave him a slip of paper and a pencil stub. Ishwaran wrote down a message for his father, folded the slip and placed it carefully in the inner pocket of his coat. He returned the pencil and stepped out of the hotel. He had only the stretch of the racecourse road and turning to his right, half the market road to traverse. And then Ellaman Street, and then Sarayu, the river. Its dark swirling waters would close on him and end all his miseries. "I must leave this letter in my coat pocket and remember to leave my coat on the river step," he told himself. He was soon out of Ellaman Street. His feet plowed through the sands of the river bank. He came to the river steps, removed his coat briskly, and went down the steps. "Oh God," he muttered with folded hands, looking up at the stars. "If I can't pass an examination even with a 10th attempt, what is the use of my living and disgracing the world?" His feet were in the water. He looked over his shoulder at the cluster of university buildings. There was a light burning on the porch of the Senate House. It was nearing midnight on the porch of the... It was nearing midnight. It was a quarter of an hour's walk. Why not walk across and take a last look at the results board? In any case, he was going to die, and why should he shirk and tremble before the board? He came out of the water and went up the steps, leaving his coat behind. And he walked across the sand. Somewhere, a clock struck 12. Stars sparkled overhead. The river flowed on with a murmur, and